I'll call to order the council meeting for Thursday, January the 25th. And I would ask that before we begin, that we observe a moment of silence in reverence of the late City of Mississauga Councillor Jim Tovey. Thank you very much. I know it was a sad day to hear the news of his passing. I know Councillor Tovey was very compassionate in regards to conservation for sure, and in fact he was very persistent in protecting and preserving the environment, particularly as it related to the Mississauga's waterfront. And I had the pleasure, along with Councillor Yanika, and I think Councillor Ennis and Councillor Downey were there the day before his passing, went at the morphology event. And, you know, in some ways it was a real tribute to Jim himself. It certainly showed his passion, expressed his passion rather, and certainly in many ways through the photographs. And it was a day that I know he had spent a lot of time in organizing with the committee, and it was a great way to express how he felt about the future of Mississauga's waterfront. You know, Jim's was the only councillor that I can recall who ever sat on both the boards of Toronto Region Conservation Authority and Credit Valley Conservation during the same term. And I think that just expressed as well how he felt about conservation and how he wanted to make sure that both those organizations were in sync with his vision for the waterfront. You know, he was certainly well respected by his constituents, certainly well respected by members of council, and I believe very well respected by the staff here at the Region of Peel as well. So all I can say is Godspeed, Jim. Roll call. All are present except Mayor Crombie. Councillor Downey's on vacation. Councillor Groves is ill. Councillor Miles, a personal matter. And Mayor Thompson on other municipal business. Oh, and Councillor Medeiros. Missed that one. Thank you. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none then, if I could have approval of the minutes of the January 11, 2018 Regional Council meeting. Moved by Councillor Mahoney, seconded by Councillor Starr. Any amendments? All in favor? Okay. Yeah, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Councillor Jeff Bowman from the City of Brampton, who I understand is representing Councillor Miles today on behalf of Regional Council. Thank you. Welcome, Jeff. Approval of the agenda. I'm just gonna ask, it's in here? Oh, okay. If we could have someone move and second, moved by Councillor Councillor Parrish? I was just gonna put it on.
No, I just wanted to ask.
Okay.
We deferred Councillor Bowman's presence here the last 2 weeks. I don't want to be inhospitable. He looks like a handsome fellow. But we haven't approved his sitting here yet in our procedural bylaw. So is he not a little precipitous to be here and voting?
I'm gonna refer that to Graham.
I knew you would.
Put him in the hot seat, seeing that he's here.
And remember where you came from.
He knows very well.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Parrish. So Section 268 of the Municipal Act is the new provision that came into force on January 1st of this year. Gives the power to the local authority, local municipality to appoint a representative. It's not subject to approval from the upper tier, to use the terms of the Municipal Act, or any procedural requirements. It's not perfect in the sense that we haven't drafted the procedure by which appointments would be made. Brampton has, and they have appointed somebody. I think if you're looking in terms of a potential conflict, I think the representation of the ward would likely trump any sort of procedural imperfection on this end. I think after discussing this with the Deputy City Solicitor and the clerk in Brampton, I think we agreed that there's no veto power, to use that term, or there's no power at this end to question or to challenge, sorry, the appointment. So in terms of a reading of 268, at this stage, it's not up to the region to, based on my reading.
Okay, I hearken back to when we had a retired judge come in and look at the distribution of votes. And at that time, that judge suggested that Mississauga would always have 50% of the votes. It's based on that, our department down in Mississauga will be challenging it and will be speaking with the ministry. Not that we don't like Mr. Bowman, we don't know him, but it's a matter of principle with us. The other thing that I think is a little precipitous is to be doing this when we just lost Councillor Tovey. We're off balance to start with, so I just want to register our concern that this was not a good move to do today, but thank you.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda then. Moved by Councillor Mahoney, seconded by Councillor Shaughnessy, that enterprise programs and services, item 11.5, listed on the January 25th, 2018 Regional Council agenda, be withdrawn. And further, that the agenda for the January 25th, 2018 Regional Council meeting include a copy of a resolution and report from the City of Mississauga regarding the Ward 1 vacancy to be dealt with under items related to enterprise programs and services, item 12.1. And further, that the agenda for the January 25th, 2018 Regional Council meeting be approved as amended. All those in favor then? Opposed, if any? Carried. Councillor Parrish.
Councillor Dale, you're ignoring me this week. I don't want,
No, not this week, just today.
okay. I don't want Councillor Bowman to know how often I get ignored, but we'll talk after. Under 11.5 being withdrawn, I just want to share with you my shock when I read that report a couple of days ago. The City of Mississauga has done extensive work, and we're literally at war with the GTAA right now. The tone of this report is, if you privatize, we will get more tax dollars, which is absolutely ludicrous. So not only do we want our report brought here, we would also like our staff to delegate and do an education session for everybody here, because it affects all of us, that our pilts from the airport at 23 million in Mississauga should be doubled to 46 right now. And the tax coming in here at 9 million should be doubled to 18 million without privatization. So we're on a path to try to make that happen. And I was shocked to see this report and not too impressed with it. So I'm glad you've withdrawn it, and I hope we can schedule Mississauga staff to be here as soon as possible.
And I certainly appreciate the comments that you've made, and certainly we can accommodate your request. Delegation. Yeah, it's been suggested, and I think it's appropriate that we bring forward 12.1. That's the resolution and report from the City of Mississauga regarding the Ward 1 vacancy and the direction required to proceed. To declare the seat vacant. Have you got a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
On and off board.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the clerk to put that on. Oh, it's on the board. Good. Mayor Crombie.
Thank you. I'm happy to move the motion. Yesterday at Council, City of Mississauga declared the seat vacant and put in a process in which we will appoint an interim councillor to replace Jim Tovey until the next election. We decided that because of the cost of a by-election, it wasn't worthwhile that we would allow individuals to put their name forward in their resume, and we would put them on the agenda of February 21st council meeting, and they would have their opportunity to tell us why they're the right person, and we'll move their names following that and hopefully have a person in place before the end of the month.
If I could have a seconder for Councillor Moore. I'll move by Mayor Crombie, seconded by Councillor Moore. Then, whereas Section 259, subsection 1H of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, states that the office of a member of council of a municipality becomes vacant if the member dies. And whereas the passing of Councillor Jim Tovey has created such a vacancy. And whereas the City of Mississauga has provided to the Region of Peel a copy of City of Mississauga Resolution Number 18-2018, in which the position of Councillor for Ward 1 was declared vacant. Therefore, be it resolved that the Regional Council seat of the late Councillor Jim Tovey be declared vacant. Is that recorded vote? Yes. And that passes. All right, moving right along here. Delegations. Catherine Soplet, founder, Building Up Our Neighborhoods and member of Peel Poverty Action Group, and Richard Antonio, chair of Peel Poverty Action Group. And also, I believe, Sarah Singh, founder and executive director of Broadening Horizons. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, and through you, Richard Antonio sends his regrets. He recently relocated into affordable housing and had an issue, so that he called me at 8:30 last night. He's not able to be here. Thank you very much, and through you, Chair Dale, we're here today to recognize the 10-year anniversary of the Peel Youth Charter. This is the 10th presentation to 2007 endorsers of record. Speaking notes will be provided to the clerk and will have sources linked to the material and the slides. So I am Catherine Soplet, a 20-year resident of Mississauga. I'm a former music instructor for young children and founder of Building Up Our Neighborhoods initiative for civic engagement. My advocacy efforts to promote public education and public libraries were recognized in August 2017 with an invitation to join the inaugural Community Advisory Group of the Ontario Human Rights Commission. With me here today is a Brampton resident, Sarah Singh. Sarah has a passion to educate, empower, and inspire youth to address social justice issues. As founder and executive director of Broadening Horizons, Sarah uses art-based education to foster youth leadership training. These first slides are going to go quickly, as many of you have already taken in a presentation, and you are already well familiar with the Peel Youth Charter. So 10 years ago, in October 25, 2007, an exceptional event occurred at Peel Regional Council that pledged a bold standard for a better future for all youth and children across Peel. On that day, an unusual and unanimous endorsement was sealed by 11 Peel Region partners across all levels of government, public education, policing, crime prevention, and human services. So there are some asks of this presentation. You have them noted in your material. And in particular, to continue endorsement of the Peel Youth Charter, to authorize the Peel Regional Chair to sign the Peel Youth Charter in a future civic signing ceremony, to refer endorsement through the Region of Peel Legislative Services Delivery System, to display the plaques of the Peel Youth Charter, and to authorize the Region of Peel co-chair of Peel Poverty Reduction Strategy Committee to sign the Peel Youth Charter as with the other civic partners as a successor organization. So the Peel Youth Charter resulted out of the chaos of the 2005 Summer of the Gun. Councillors in Peel recognized what had to be done, created the Peel Youth Violence Crime Prevention Committee, developed a strategy and the charter. And the charter was unanimously endorsed, as mentioned, in 2007. Rights of the charter align with the Ontario Human Rights Code and apply without discrimination or prejudice to all youth in Peel. By signing the charter, all are committed to use best efforts to ensure safety, health, education, and future jobs for youth. And why do we have to seek continued endorsement? Because the signatures have aged out. There's been changes in leadership, only one signature stands, and we are getting ready for 2018 election platforms with a focus on the future. Some key impacts since the Peel Youth Charter was through the Fair Share Task Force, which originated in about 2008. After 5 years of lobbying effort, $1.8 million in equalization payment was brought to fund youth mental health and youth outreach workers. And I want to commend the current mayor of Brampton in her role as the MPP for Bramley to bring that money to Peel. Other impacts were investments in Safe City, Mississauga, the Crime Prevention Committee, and what happened was the creation of the Aspire Tutors program, which provides free tutoring for students age 6 to grade 6 where they live. We know that literacy lowers crime rates, and in partnership with the Peel Region Police, we're tracking student achievement against lower crime rates. Activities through the Peel Child and Youth Initiative, increased membership in the Canada Learning Bond, registered education savings plan from 27,000 to 57,000 people in 3 years. And we know when parents are invested in their children's education that they focus on the future and look after their children. Trials on recreation found that recreation boosts student achievement. As a result, there was work inside of the city of Mississauga, and they developed the My Way Summer Freedom Pass, which is free bus rides to free swimming and skating for youth in the summer. Peel Region Police has a great anti-bullying poster competition. Here, this poster is the 2016-27 winner from St. Paul Secondary School, Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board, Jennifer Johanna. The positive ticket tries to catch people doing things right. We want to continue with best efforts because the Ontario Human Rights Code is going to be evolving. The charter was taken in and displayed, and representatives of Peel, 4 out of the 40 attendees came from the region of Peel. The charter was noted by Dr. Kwan McKenzie, who said, really, it is time to recommit to this charter because the focus on these elements boost and improve mental health well-being prospects for youth. Sarah?
Awesome. I do note that we are running a little behind time, so I'll keep it very short. And I just wanted to speak in support of what the Youth Charter does to promote the health, safety, and inclusion of young people in our communities, and specifically with the We Rise Together initiative by the Peel District School Board and the action plan to support Black male students to ensure that they are actively included in our communities is, we could say, something that has been influenced by the Peel Youth Charter. But more importantly, for young people, especially racialized young people, the Peel Youth Charter does ensure that their voices are heard and that we are looking to ensure that they are included appropriately within the Peel community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Councillor Sato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, thank you for being here. And as one of the authors of the Peel Youth Charter and the councillor who moved the motion to establish the Peel Youth Violence Prevention Committee, it actually came out of our Peel SEPTED committee. We had finished the work on SEPTED here at the region of Peel, and we were the first municipality to have that kind of a prevention committee. And Peel police staff came to me and said, maybe what we should be doing at the region is now moving to dealing with youth issues. Now that we've finished this mandate, move to that. So we had a very lengthy report at the region, and council endorsed it, and that was the establishment of the Peel Youth Violence Prevention Committee, from which the charter came. And we wrote the charter because we wanted to put in writing and for everyone to endorse the fact that the safety, the well-being, and the nourishment and support for our youth in the region of Peel was of paramount importance. And that's why we determined who should be signing the charter, and not just signing it, because it's very easy to put your name on a piece of paper and put it on a plaque, as we did, and hang it up on the wall of your government building. It's much harder to live the charter and to put in place what we felt would be required to undertake the work that the charter spoke about. And over the last 10 years, we've evolved our programs. The Peel Children and Youth Initiative came along and worked for some time, is now gone. I had a meeting first thing this morning with Nancy and Janice, and we talked about is there anything we need to do here at the region of Peel that we are not doing that was in the charter. And really the only suggestion that I came up with was more communication to the young people in our region, providing them with more not providing them with the resources, because we're doing a good job on that and we're improving that annually, The school boards are improving it. The many agencies that we are supporting here in Peel are providing services for the youth in our communities, and we will continue to do that. And where there's a gap, we will look at it regionally and plug those gaps, whether it's dealing with homelessness or youth criminal activities, prevention, helping youth to get out of gangs, stay out of gangs, that type of thing. But one of the areas that I flagged was that youth really don't know where to go to get information that is quick and easy for them when they need it, where they need it. So my suggestion is, and staff are now looking, they're redoing the website right now anyway, but I've suggested that they go and do some focus groups with youth and with some of the agencies and ask them what is the easiest way for us to get this information to the youth, probably through an app or the website, through a scanner, posters on washrooms and schools and everywhere that they can very easily and quietly and privately access the information. So for me, I think from a regional perspective, Mr. Chairman, that's where we should be focusing our efforts at this period of time. I will move that we do re-sign the charter because you're right. Probably if I were to look at the signatures that are on the charter, I don't know if anyone's still, there's one, okay, sorry, I don't have it open right in front of me, so,
I can show you.
no, that's fine, that's fine.
Can't read it.
Yeah, it's,
Can't read it.
Bill
Oh,
District
you
School
circled.
Board.
oh, Janet, right, that's right, yes. So I think it is appropriate if we update, especially on the 10th anniversary, and we reaffirm that we as a region and we as municipalities, because the mayors of the municipalities signed the charter and the school boards, are still affirmed in our concern for the youth of our community. And I'm really pleased that what we did more than 10 years ago is still valid today. And reading through it this morning with staff, we went through every line, and there's really nothing that we felt we would change. And I think that's a really good thing. And, you know, I didn't write the charter alone. There were several of us that were on the committee, and we had input from the school boards. We had input from youth as well, and from our committee. And I think it's very heartening to know that what we heard then is still valid today, and that we can reaffirm that. So thank you for being here and reminding us of the importance of what we have been doing and what we need to continue to do.
So what are you moving?
Thank you. I moved that we reaffirm it and re-sign.
We've prepared a motion. I'm going to ask that
Oh, okay.
they put it on the screen for members of council. And I'll go to Councillor Raz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for coming today. I know that for those of us who know Catherine, she exemplifies perseverance when it comes to this file, so congratulations. And for continuing to make it at the top of our minds. Although the charter itself may be a little bit dated, I do know, having spoken with staff, that they really do incorporate the values in their everyday work. But we know that there's a little bit more that we can do in terms of reaching out and updating it, given, you know, what society is like versus just 10 years ago. So I will gladly second Councillor Sato's motion to update the charter. And I'm just wondering if by time we get all the signatures, if it's the regional chair, do we want to have them sign it at the end of 2018 once a new regional chair is appointed and the mayors? It's a timing issue. Because we know or don't know that there's going to be a new regional chair,
Let's do
Mr.
it
Chair.
now.
That's true. Or a councillor for Ward 2 in Mississauga. We don't know. I have a motion moved by Councillor Sato, seconded by Councillor Raz, that the endorsement of the Peel Youth Charter be renewed, and further that the regional chair on behalf of regional council sign the Peel Youth Charter in 2018 with other civic partners, and further that the request of the Peel Poverty Action Group in building up our neighborhoods to install the youth charter in locations throughout regional facilities be endorsed, and further that the Region of Peel Co-Chair of Peel Poverty Reduction Strategy be authorized to sign the Peel Youth Charter in 2018 with other civic partners. Is that a recorded? Yeah, recorded vote, please. Still here, aren't you?
Yay. Two thumbs up. Thank you so much.
And thank you both for being here. I know both of you have been strong advocates, particularly yourself, Catherine, with respect to since the charter was first signed. And, you know, I feel very honored to have the privilege to signing this charter, as I was on council when it was first approved and endorsed by this council, and I'm pleased to see that it's a unanimous again. So thanks so much for being here, and we certainly appreciate all the good work that you do on advocating on behalf of our youth here in Peel.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, our next delegation then is Lynn Ward, Executive Director, ARMA, providing an overview of ARMA's services, programs, and outcomes. Welcome, ladies. Yeah, please proceed when you're ready.
Okay. Good morning, Regional Chair and members of Council. I'm Lynn Ward, Executive Director of ARMA, and with me today is Lucy Cameron, our Board President. We also have in the audience John McKenna, Past President. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today on this matter, and a special thank you to Council Ross and regional staff who have worked closely with us. As you may know, family violence comes in many forms: physical, sexual, emotional, and financial. Okay. Without access to appropriate housing and supports, women fleeing from abusive situations often end up living in substandard conditions or returning to the previous or another abusive environment. This is a picture of our home. Currently, we have 9 units and limited program space. The need is clear. This slide shows that over the past 3 years, ARMA received 234 referrals, and with current capacity, ARMA can only support 61 families. That means 173 families cannot be served in Peel. We heard from the 61 women that prior coming to ARMA, they had left their abusive situation on average 4 to 5 times. After their stay at ARMA, 98% of these women indicated that they have rebuilt their lives and have not returned to an abusive situation. At ARMA, we provide units that are fully furnished, affordable, and safe. To ensure safety, we do not use your address, and it is not identified in your report. ARMA is a transitional supportive facility. This slide shows the wide range of services that ARMA provides. In many cases, the services continue after residents have transitioned into the community. ARMA's client-centered supportive approach ensures that women and children receive the necessary time and support in a secure and private setting to assist in their recovery. We are intensely focused on building our residents up and setting them on a path to realize their full potential. Beyond providing housing and offering formal support, we integrate personal development, including promoting women's economic independence and life skills. They benefit from counseling, find employment or educational opportunities. They build their confidence and independence to stop the cycle of abuse. Art therapy is one of our most popular programs for women and children, and here's an example of one of our residents' work. Today we have 9 units with 6 one-bedroom, 2 two-bedroom, and 1 open concept unit. The addition will provide 9 two-bedroom units and 1 one-bedroom unit, and will include a fully accessible unit and an accessible building entry and program space, which we currently do not have. The program space is invaluable to our current and former residents. I'm also very happy to advise you that last week we received approval from the Committee of Adjustment for the variances we need. The impact and transformation that ARMA's housing and support services have on our residents' future is overwhelming. And with that, I would like to share with you the experience from a former resident who I'll refer to as Sarah. Sarah fled from her abusive partner of 9 years for the 4th time. She was referred to ARMA from a crisis shelter. She lost her connections to family and friends as a result of her abusive relationship, and she needed support in many areas of her life. When Sarah moved into ARMA, she came to us feeling alone, depressed, scared, broken, and most of all, unsure of her future. Here are some of Sarah's words. Where do I begin to tell you how ARMA changed our lives? I was given a safe, loving, understanding, caring, non-judgmental, supportive, considerate, helpful, free-to-be-me environment, and most of all, a place to call home. I lived at ARMA for 1 year with my 4 daughters and have been completely transformed. I learned life and parenting skills, opened up to a new way of thinking, and received tools to do better in life. I gained confidence in myself and the knowledge that I can do it on my own. I am now a woman who knows her own worth and has confidence in all she does. I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for this out-of-this-world transitional home. It's the most amazing place on earth to me, a place where I broke the cycle of abuse. Today, Sarah is operating her own business. This is just one of the many, many stories of success that former residents have shared with us. The art piece and poem on this slide was created through our art therapy program by another resident, and I direct you to this simple but powerful statement at the end of the poem, I'm glad I feel. This final slide is a graphic showing the many partnerships that ARMA has developed in the community. On behalf of ARMA, we are grateful for our partnership with you, and we look forward to continuing to grow this partnership. Thank you for your time, and Lucy and I will be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Raz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Lynn and Lucy, and to John for coming today. Wow, amazing work that you do in the community, but in a very understated way, because most people don't even know where you are, so that you do a good job of keeping the lid on that, so to speak. I was amazed when I've been there, you didn't touch on it here, is the type of children's programming that you have. I'm just wondering if you can talk about, Pause to Read and some of the other things that you do for the kids.
Sure. So in 2014, we implemented a children's program because we heard from the women, thank you for helping us, but our child needs help and support too. So some of the program activities that we offer the children is the Pause to Read, and that is to help with their literacy skills because a lot of them needed help in that way in terms of schooling. So we have therapeutic dogs come to ARMA, and the children read to a non-judgmental dog, which has improved their reading ability at school and their self-confidence, which has been broken given their circumstances.
And I think it's hard to grasp that we only have 9 units in all of the region of Peel for this type of housing. 9 units. And it is amazing to know that when they do stay there for the term, when they have to leave, they leave with their furniture that they've been provided with ARMA, so they can just basically take their apartment and the things in it and move it somewhere else, which is one less thing that they have to worry about when they're starting a new life. I know that if some of you look at the recommendation, you may think that some of the costs are on the higher side, but it's not just the hard capital costs, it's some of the soft services and the programming services that you're going to be providing them as well. So I fully support the plan. And I just want to say thank you. We've been through, almost 2 years of community consultations. We've had open houses. You've done a great job of keeping the residents informed, because there's always some trepidation when it's an institutional type of expansion. So I think you've done a phenomenal job of keeping the residents on board. And can't please everybody all the time, but I think for the most part, you've done a really good job on that. And I just want to thank staff. This has been in the works for a long time, and trying to work through all of the issues and concerns and getting some of those costs down. This is good for all of the region of Peel, not just South Mississauga. So thank you very much for coming today, and I'll move the report at the appropriate time, Mr. Chair.
On that, I would just ask that if staff could put it on our screens, the recommendation, and I'll move to Mayor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, ladies, for the presentation, and thank you for everything you've done. This is really important work. This is what the region should be doing. And I guess when I read the report, I was shocked, actually, at how many families need your services and how little capacity we have. It's sad that it takes so long to move these things along. So I guess the challenge for me is none of it's in Brampton. And I realize that everybody is, from the Region of Peel can be served, and that this recommendation, which I fully support, is going to actually double the capacity, but it's still not going to be enough. So I did reach out to Commissioner Shee yesterday and said, you know, I know it's for all of Mississauga, and I know 50% are from Brampton, but none of those places are in my city, our city of 600,000 and growing. So I'm hoping that when the report comes back in late March, April, with regards to the update on housing and homelessness plan, that there is a long-term plan to expedite some of those units in Brampton, just like the youth that we had, the issue where there were no sites in Brampton before. Now we need to start thinking about how to make sure that all of the region is covered and that we have the capacity to help these brave mothers and children who are fleeing a very dangerous situation. Because if you don't spend the money up at front, you end up paying for it later. And these families pay for it, and these young people, these children pay for it over the long term. So this is money well spent. I'm entirely supportive. I'm just nudging. Hopefully the report comes back and that we have some solutions. I'm happy to work with our commissioner to make sure there's capacity elsewhere in the region to support the great work that you do. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mayor Crombie.
Thank you. Thank you for coming forward today, and I'm happy to second the motion as well. And I really just wanted to say thank you for all the great work you do. I've had the opportunity to tour the house and meet some of the residents, and I can't imagine if you weren't there where they would go or how they would survive. So thank you. Thank you very much. That's all.
So we've brought forward the resolution then, and I'm going to take it as read. It's been moved by Councillor Raz and seconded by Mayor Crombie, and ask for a recorded vote. All in. And that passes. Thank you very much for being here, and continued good success with, and I want to commend you for all the good work that you do at ARMA.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. This takes us to the consent agenda, and I would just ask, is there, as you know, this, the ones that are marked with an asterisk are considered to be under the consent, and are there any ones, or any of those items do you want to hold? Are there any other items that you want to add to the consent at this time? Councillor Parrish.
And you've got 11.3 marked. I'd add 11.4 as well.
You don't need that.
Okay. No,
No, I want to talk about it.
okay.
Yeah, you want to add .3. We are talking about 11.
I would like to talk about 11.3 and 11.4.
Okay,
Thank you,
so-
all the correctors.
All right, so you're asking that 11.3 not be included in the consent?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Would you be prepared then to move the consent agenda? Seconded by Councillor Palashi. And that's a recorded vote, please. The motion passes. So that takes us to items related to health then, and would ask that Councillor Moore chair this section, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of committee, items 7.1 and 7.2 are in consent, so we'll move to 7.3. Are there any questions on that report? Seeing none, do we call the vote on that as we move along, Madam Clerk?
Recorded votes required, yeah.
Okay. Those in favor?
We actually need a mover and a seconder as well.
Councillor
Councillor Moore.
Palashi and Mayor Jeffrey?
Oh, pick Bowman for something.
That passes. The next item on the agenda is 7.4. It's the supply of resident ceiling lift equipment. Seeing no questions, moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Fonseca. Recorded vote. That's carried. Item 8.1 is in consent, so Mr. Chairman, I'll turn the agenda back to you.
Thank you very much. The items related to human services have been dealt with, so that moves us to items related to enterprise programs and services. Councillor Fonseca, if you chair this section, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Item 11.1 has been moved in consent. On to item 11.2, which is the Bill 175 Safer Ontario Act, major reforms to policing. Mayor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chair. On this particular item, it's here for information. My suggestion is that the Region Appeal actually show up at some of the hearings, just because at the end of the day, I think we need to express our concerns about the resource management that impacts that will happen as a result of these recommendations. I know that the police board, also some of the members have different concerns, but I think if you don't show up, there'll be an expectation by the government that we're all happy and fine with the suggestions. So I think our staff should be, and I've asked the clerk to put something together to recommend that our staff at least appear and express concerns to the increased costs, not only to the Region Appeal, but to Town of Caledon, City of Brampton, and City of Mississauga.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay, so that, thank you very much, Mayor Jeffrey. That resolution's on the screen, so you're moving that. Seconded by Councillor McFadden. And seeing no one further on the board, this would be a recorded vote. Oh, sorry, did I speak too soon? Okay. You wanted to speak to the report?
I just simply wanted to suggest that perhaps our written submission we would want to share with AMO, because they have a position on this as well, so doesn't change my vote or anything,
Okay.
I just,
Could we include that in the, would you like, is that a friendly amendment to include in the motion?
yeah, or staff can take it under advisement. I'm fine with either.
Okay. Any further questions? Councillor Moore, you're still on the board? Now seeing no one further on the board. I don't know if we actually did vote on that. We did, okay. Thank you very much, that passes. Now moving on to 11.3, which is lame duck provisions, restricted acts after nomination day, Municipal Act 2001 as amended. Councillor Parrish.
Well, I'd like to speak to 11.3 and 11.4, and I'd like to refer those back to staff. Our staff said, and I'll quote, "Notwithstanding that the clerks and election managers for Mississauga, Brampton, Caledon, and the Region of Peel have established an election working group to share information, the above noted reports were not circulated for comments." 2, Mississauga has established its own procedures related to the 2018 election, will conduct the election, prepare the ballots, use our chosen vote counting equipment, comply with our accessibility plan, etc., and similar to the election of school board trustees, include the regional chair candidates on our ballots. The city's election website will provide a link to the region's election website to direct candidates for regional chair to their specific information. 3rd, the regional clerk will provide Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon the candidate information for position of regional chair by July 30th for inclusion on our ballots. 4, at the close of polls on election day, the City of Mississauga will run the results for all positions and will then forward the Mississauga votes for regional chair to the Region of Peel to combine all the results and determine the regional chair. 5, the Municipal Elections Act does not require that the procedures be published or approved by council. 6, Compliance Audit Committee We have had discussions with the other municipalities about the option of a region-wide committee whereby each municipality would appoint members to the same committee. However, a decision related to this has not been made. In the past, the school boards have used Mississauga's Compliance Audit Committee as their own for Mississauga trustees. 7, we have scheduled a candidate information session for Mississauga Council candidates with information related to the regional chair also available for April 17th, 2018, which will be advised in the next month. 8, it is unclear why the region are preparing an accessibility plan as we are conducting the election for the regional chair, and they have no involvement in the actual poll locations, accessible voting equipment, etc., which would be related to an accessibility plan. 9, information related to the Lame Duck Council is somewhat confusing in the report. However, the city's procedure bylaw includes provisions related to the delegation of certain functions during summer and election recess periods. I would suggest this is a little bit of a not happy. So could we just refer these back to Brampton, Caledon, and Mississauga for comment?
Thank you very much, Councillor Parrish. So just looking to clear, so both 11.3 and 11.4 are for information. So would this be done through direction? Yes.
So
Please.
through you, Chair, if I may address some of those concerns, I tried to keep track of them. Those things actually are embodied in that manual. I think that we have to remember that this is the first time that we've done an election here for regional chair at large. In the past, it's been appointment, and we are required, thank you, we are required under the legislation to have procedures and policies in place. We're basically bookending what the locals are doing. We're responsible for the nominations and forward up to the actual polling day, and then after polling day for announcing the results and the submission of the financial statements, et cetera.
So, Catherine, you'd have no problem with deferring these reports until you can pull that committee back together again with the 3 municipalities?
They're for information reports. They're not, there's nothing in them that's controversial. There's no approval requested. It is up to me to run the election. It's not up to council to approve or not approve the processes. It puts you in an awkward position if you were required to. Also, in addition, we had some direction from this council to raise the awareness of the fact that the regional chair is actually being elected separately this year. And this is part of that. By putting this on the public agenda, we're raising the awareness that we have our own procedures. So while the area municipalities have the exact same kind of procedures, they've had them for decades because they've run elections for so long. This is the first time we've had to gather them together. With respect to the accessibility, because that is something the council does have to approve. We are required to have one through the legislation for all those matters leading up to the polling. So it's not about the accessibility of the polling station. We, of course, defer to that to the area municipalities, and that's set out in that manual. And instead, we have to make sure that where they come to file their nomination papers, that they have an accessible place to do that.
I guess what I'm curious about then, if all you say is true, which I absolutely 100% always believe you, why was that not circulated to Mississauga's election people?
We didn't circulate the actual manual. We did talk about the manual and the fact that we had to create the procedures and processes here for the first time. So I'm actually equally surprised that they were surprised that we're doing
You're
this.
surprised that they were surprised that I was surprised?
Yeah, but there's nothing in the manual that is interfering at all with the excellent job that the locals have always done in running the election. And it's very deferential to them and their processes.
So all you want us to do today is receive these?
Yeah, that's it. I just
By the
wanted
way,
to.
the manual attached, the multiple pages was very good. I read every one. It's excellent. Thank you.
Good.
And we should make sure all the new candidates that are running us get a copy.
And they will, and that's part of the process. And this manual will be updated constantly as new forms come out from the ministry, et cetera. It will be available from the website. We will make it available to candidates. And we are actually meeting tomorrow. All of the clerks and the election group is meeting again tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I'll just move receipt of both reports.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no, we'll do one at a time. 11.3. Seeing no further questions on the board. Moved by Counselor, it's for receipt, so we don't need, it's for receipt, but it is a recorded vote, correct? No. Oh, yeah, no, okay. Okay, and 11.4? So we've dealt
3 and
with
4 are both for receipts,
11.3. I just wanted to see if there was anyone else on the board on any questions on 11.4. Seeing none, so there, that's for receipt as well. So we don't need a recorded vote. Okay, so, but we still have to do show of hands, right? We don't?
All those in favor?
11.3, all those in favor. Any opposed? Carried. 11.4, all those in favor. Any opposed? Carried. Sorry, just because it wasn't part of the consent agenda, I wanted to make sure I was doing it correctly. Okay, thank you. 11.5 was withdrawn. 11.6 is psychological health and safety program update, and we do have the items for, the reports for information, but we do have a presentation.
Good morning. Through the chair, my name is Mary Kalevi. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the Region of Peel. The workplace can and does play a significant role in employees' ability to manage both their physical and psychological health. Over the years, much focus has been on physical health, and so we provide the hard hats, the masks, and the gloves that our employees need to prevent, to keep them safe from physical hazards. Over the past 10 years, more attention has been provided to psychological health and safety. We know that the workplace can play a role in helping or hindering employees' psychological well-being, and we are pleased to provide you with today an update on the region's psychological health and safety program. A psychologically healthy and safe workplace promotes workers' psychological well-being and actively works to prevent harm to worker psychological health. We're grateful for the support that we have received from Regional Council, most recently and in response to changes in legislation and our 2017 experience. The 2018 budget did include an increase due to additional WSIB claim costs related to post-traumatic stress disorder and chronic mental stress claims. It's our goal to have a robust program to avoid unneeded risk to psychological health and safety. With me today are two important partners, Peter Dundas, Chief of Peel Regional Paramedic Services, and Dave Wakely, President of OPSU Local 277, that represents our frontline paramedics and logistic technicians. They're important partners because due to the nature of their work, employees in paramedic services are particularly vulnerable to occupational stress injuries. Clearly, there is greater understanding of the importance of psychological health, and next Wednesday, January the 23rd, marks Bell Let's Talk Day. This annual conversation promotes awareness and is dedicated to moving mental health forward in Canada. Mental illness is a leading cause of disability in Canada and for the region of Peel. We're very fortunate in Canada to have the CSA standard for psychological health and safety in the workplace. It provides us with guidelines, tools, and resources focused on promoting employees' psychological health and preventing psychological harm due to workplace factors. We're using this standard for guidance in the development of a holistic systems approach to advance our psychological health and safety program. Our three areas of focus are on promoting mental health, intervening and providing support, and supporting employees during recovery and return to work. Our work is ongoing, and it will take us some time to build out the program completely. We also recognize that we need to continue to iterate and improve as we go and learn from our experience. Dealing with psychological health is extremely complex. Once again, I'm fortunate to have some great partners in paramedic services who have led the way and piloted initiatives and programs in their workplace so that we can learn, adapt, and modify for application in other areas of the region. I'm going to have them provide you with an update on the work that they've been doing.
So thank you, this is an important time to be forward here to be able to speak to the work that we're doing collectively and the great strides we've made, but we know there's lots more strides to achieve. From 2015 to now, we have seen a significant shift in how we address mental health in the workplace. And this can't be done in isolation of a program without the great cooperation we have with our union. And we have a very strong working relationship, not just Dave and I, but the membership as well as the program itself. And that is the catalyst, and that's what really drives forward the agenda. And it's been a very positive experience. And I'm quite happy that we do have that relationship with Dave and the executive and the membership in working towards implementing the standard, plus also taking a hold of a number of other initiatives that we are working towards to make a very well workplace when we're dealing with mental health. We are collectively committed to having a framework in place that addresses and supports those experiences and the mental health crises that paramedics can face at the job or off the job. And we're going to highlight some of the areas that we have incorporated in the system since 2015, and we're also going to speak to the journey of the next steps and the work towards the framework implementation. So one of the areas of work that we first undertook in about 2016 when we were speaking to this, the beginning of 2016 actually, was our journey with the Road to Mental Readiness, or R2MR as it's commonly known. The program was developed by the Canadian military and adapted for first responders in partnership with the Mental Health Commission of Canada and also CAMH, the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health. The program focuses on resiliency and mental health coaching and education. Helpful pocket guides, and I know there's been criticism about pocket guides, but I can tell you these pocket guides stay in people's pockets and they're used quite regularly. And they have been provided by the centers for paramedics and the leaders to resource, to identify where we all are on our mental health continuum. So in 2016, we rolled out our R2MR, and we started with the leadership. And when I speak with leadership, it's not Peter and his staff. Leaders of all the people in there, union executive, union stewards, program staff, supervisors, superintendents, commanders, the deputy chief, myself, and other leaders of the organization. Took a full day of training so that we would have information and practical strategies for dealing with stress, the provision of psychological support for staff, along with the half-day learning that frontline staff are receiving as well in R2MR. All paramedics, close to 600 of them, have gone through R2MR training in 2016, and we continue to educate any new hires that come on board through their orientation, have the half-day of R2MR training, as well as any return-to-work people that have been absent for a couple of years. And part of the return-to-work package, which is quite robust, is a piece of it is focused on their mental well-being, R2MR, and a number of the other strategies that we'll be speaking to shortly. What is unique about our half-day learnings is we have a clinical psychologist present at each one of these sessions from CAMH as well. Not to just be a teacher, but also be there if staff identify during that 4-hour session. And I can tell you from experience, some staff needed the help and the intervention of the clinical psychologist who was there, readily accessible, and able to turn their skills to that one individual as the rest of the group were taught R2MR. And it's been quite beneficial. And we continue that relationship with CAMH with any of the training programs that we do related to R2MR. So we're continuing to explore what else can be done through R2MR. There is a family readiness component that the commissions are looking at right now. And we're also looking at other organizational pieces that could also blend in with the R2MR model that we have. And now I'll turn it over to Dave so he can speak to another component of our initiatives.
The next component in our initiative is the peer support program. This is a program that with the help of Mental Health Innovations, which is a company that was retained to help us with this, we recruited 19 peer supporters. These are mostly paramedics. There are 1 or 2 members of management that participate, that provide support mainly to other management members. And they've all been through training in how to be a peer supporter. This is a program that's about building resiliency. It's not for dealing necessarily with your acute mental health care crisis. It's a program that deals with certainly some of the reverberations from the problems caused by mental health problems, both that the paramedic might experience, but also that the family members of the paramedic might experience. And it deals mainly with lived experience. There have been 23 peers supported since the inception of the program, over 71 interactions, but the numbers only tell part of the story. I was approached by a paramedic who was very frank with me, and they said, look, I was in a dark place, and I called peer support, and I was thinking about killing myself that night. And because I had someone to speak to, and because that interaction carried me through that dark place, I'm here today. So this is the ultimate measure of success for me. It gets lost in the 23 interactions, or 71 interactions, 23 people supported. This program has saved at least one life that I know of. So that's a great testament to it. We've got 2 slides in a row with that. The other thing that happened through collective bargaining was an increase in our psychological treatment benefit. The benefit prior to collective bargaining was $400 for psychological care, and an increase to $1,000. What we've seen is a 2.4 times increase over previous utilization, which is roughly equivalent to the people who are maxing it out still max it out, and the people who weren't using it still don't use it. So that's obviously an area that we're going to talk to Peter about next time we're at the table. But
And Mary.
Yeah.
So part of our journey is also looking at our EFAP provider, Morner Chappelle, and how can they help the paramedics when they're calling for help. And we have worked closely, collectively, the 3 of us, to work with Morner Chappelle and enhance the family assistance provider programs for paramedic services. Morner Chappelle provides quite an extensive resource list for all staff at the Region of Peel, but we needed to work with them to look at some very specific interventions that could be provided from them for paramedics, the paramedic service staff. This isn't isolated to just frontline paramedics. It's to the paramedic program. We all have our baggage that we carry, especially if we've worked the front line, and we also have our logistics technicians and others that could be exposed to some of the aftermath or be engaged with it depending on the incident that we're dealing with. So we wanted to make this robust. So part of it is we have had additional programs added to the Morner Chappelle EFAP program for the paramedics, and the 3 areas of addition are programs called Work Assist, which helps with the psychological barriers to be still remain at work and be productive. Depression care, so a counselor is available to assess severity and extend duration of care beyond the normal terms of an EFAP provider. You may have 3 or 4 provisions, times where you can meet that counselor. This person can assess, and they will extend beyond the 4. It could go to 12, it could go to 14, depending on what that individual really needs from the depression care continuum. But also we have trauma assist, and this is a very specialized area where counselors with trauma experience are available 24/7 for the paramedics. And it's when a paramedic, an individual from the program identifies when they call in to EFAP. So what happens when a paramedic or somebody from the paramedic program calls in? They identify that they're with paramedic services, and instead of going through the regular screening, they're fast-tracked into another arm of the FAP with an identified counselor that can address paramedic-related situations. And the intake is paramedics. I have had personal conversations with paramedics. I'm sure Dave has. Have utilized this. There's been very good experience. There's been some poor experiences, but we as a partnership here continually address that to make sure that any barriers or any obstructions that are in place are remedied after the situation. What the counselors do is they make an assessment, they provide guidance and support for the individual. They may direct them to care aspects or other professional levels of service that are beyond their abilities. And like I said, we'll offer a number of sessions as deemed necessary by the EFAP.
In April 2016, the government enhanced WSIB support for first responders with PTSD claims. We've had a mixed experience with the implementation of this. What we're seeing, the repeated pattern seems to be is they'll approve care, but time off still remains a struggle. Funding that time off remains a struggle. I was on the phone with a member this morning who has been fighting for 5 or 6 years to have a claim for lost time approved, and the board has taken the position that yes, your injury is work-related, we will pay for the counseling, but we're not going to pay for the time off. That's probably not work-related. So she continues to fight that, and we've seen that pattern sort of repeat itself. The good news story is we are seeing more paramedics come forward before it leads to a lost time injury and get the support they need through WSIB funded therapy. And we do encourage people to file the paperwork and get seen as soon as they start to experience symptoms. And I think our spending of some $760,000 over the last 16 months reflects those costs as well.
So in part of what Dave spoke in April of 2016, Bill 163, which ties the WSIB component there, not only makes the presumption that PTSD is work-related from an event or a cumulative amount of events, but it also called for the submission by every municipality a PTSD prevention plan. The plan was to address the municipal approach, from prevention and intervention to recovery and return to work. The plan was developed in concert with the paramedic services, our joint health and safety committee, and our partners in HR, and we submitted that plan in April of 2017. And this plan includes strategies that Peel is exploring, have put in place, like our R2MR, to address the realities of PTSD. The submission, along with other municipal submissions, are publicly available and posted on the Ministry of Labor website under First Responders First. And there's quite a catalog of not only the municipal plans, but a lot of additional resource materials, training guides, self-help guides, et cetera, that the Ministry of Labor has built, which is a fantastic tool that I have found myself turning to every now and then in being able to address some of the workplace issues that may come forward to us. This plan is very fluid, and it can be amended as we introduce other programs and augment it. And the plan is to support the framework that we'll be talking about in the next couple of minutes.
Right now. The CSA has a voluntary standard on workplace psychological health and safety, and we've got commitment from senior leadership to implement that standard within paramedic services. It focuses on 14 different criteria that you need to address in an organization and has some very specific actions that need to be taken in order to be compliant with the standard. We are working through it. We, with the help of MHI, we did some data collection. The amount of data we collected was massive. Not only did we use quantitative measures, we also used qualitative measures, and we're working with an outside enterprise to try and filter down those qualitative measures to really tell us the story of where the occupational stress comes from. This is especially important in the setting of the new changes to the WSIA that also cover occupational stress injuries. My hope is that we'll be able to report at the end of 2018 that we have been able to fully implement the standard. We're certainly working towards it. If anybody has the standard, we're somewhere between stage 2 and 3 right now of a 4-stage process. So hopefully we'll get to the point where we're just quality checking and we're running everything we do through a mental health lens. When we pass new policies, we look at them and we say, well, how is this going to affect the people that are actually implementing the policy? So that's my hope for the future, and I think we're on track for now.
So one of the first actions of the advisory group, which is really the oversight for the implementation of the CSA standard, is to augment the existing practices we have for responding to critical incidents. So this isn't the actual response to the call, but it's responding to those who have responded to the call. And looking at the supports that we already have in place, how can we do this better, and what are the best practices in the industry for supporting those that have responded to critical incidents. Critical incidents can be defined, as we all know, as those horrific incidents that are always in the media, but they could be these very silent incidents too. Just walking into a residence and seeing something that may not be a critical incident, but it triggers a response in the individual that may have been accumulating for a number of years, and it's just a trigger response. It could be a smell, it could be the look of a picture, it could just be the environment that they're walking into. So we want to be very supportive in this, in responding to the individuals. So we do have some procedures in place where superintendents will respond if they hear of an incident or it's identified that there's been an incident. They'll be out at the scene, they'll be working with staff and getting them the appropriate levels of support. But we have a working group under the advisory that's very committed to that with frontline medics and some of our program staff in HR to really define how do we address or strengthen our critical incident response to our paramedics.
So our priorities for 2018 are to continue with our work implementing the CSA standard. This includes enhancing the role of peer support. We've had, they now contact any member who's off for more than 4 weeks for any reason at all to make sure that they still have that connection with the workplace, just to check in. And if people don't want to talk to them, they don't have to. If they're just off on vacation and they tell them they don't want to talk, they don't have to talk. This is directly addressing a criticism that came up from the membership about people not keeping in touch. So our hope is that people will feel more supported and hopefully come back to work sooner. And then our next our next priority is to normalize the critical incident response protocol. We know things are happening, and sometimes it's good things and sometimes it's nothing. So we want to make sure that everybody has a consistent experience across all members of the management team, across all times of the day and night. If you experience a critical incident at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, you should get roughly the same experience at 2 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday. Ultimately, your brain and your physiological reaction to that stress doesn't change based on the time of day, so the organization needs to adapt to keep its response standard.
So two of the other priorities for 2018 are, with anything, continuous reviews, which need to occur to make sure the supports in place are correct and current. And quality reviews will be part of this as we implement the strategies that are deployed to all our staff. We want to make sure through these quality reviews that we're consistent with the application, just like Dave spoke to. 2 in the morning or 9 in the 2 in the morning or 9 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon. The responses or the supports that are there need to be mirrored at all times and be present for the staff. The other piece that we're working on, and this is a hard one to work on because we've been fairly successful in dealing with physical injury. You see physical injury. Somebody returns to work, they have restrictions, can't lift a certain weight above shoulder height or can't bend. We can watch that, we can see that, we can stop them and say, don't bend, don't lift. With a mental health injury returning to work, we can't see that. It's all internal. So we are working on strategies with HR, with Dave and his team, to try to figure out how we best reintroduce people who have been cared for with a mental health injury and returning them into the workplace in a safe and supportive and productive manner. And our goal is to provide for that environment, and we want to be able to reintroduce that employee back into the workforce so that they don't go through this experience again, or if they do, the supports are in place to be able to manage it. This is it's a journey that we want to be able to address fairly soon because we do have a number of people returning back from being off for a period of time in this scenario, and we want to make sure that they are as much supported and we're able to intervene just like somebody suffering from a physical injury in the workplace. So, corporate.
Great. Paramedic services are utilizing components of our corporate health and safety program, and a corporate approach to psychological health and safety is important. It needs to be part of everything that we do. Just like we make sure that our employees have the required training and the protective equipment they need to do their jobs, we need to make sure that the supports are in place to ensure we do no harm psychologically. We know we have other employees who too, due to the nature of their work, may be more vulnerable to mental health challenges or occupational stress injuries. But we also know from research conducted by the Mental Health Commission of Canada that in any given year, 1 in 5 people in Canada experiences a mental health problem or illness. So we see that too in our workforce. We have a suite of supports for mental health promotion, mental illness prevention, and response for all staff that is integrated into our operations. Mental health training is mandatory for all employees, and we provide short-term counseling support, as the gentleman spoke to, for all of our employees through our confidential 24/7 employee and family assistance program. Our corporate EFAP usage is at 20.5%, which is just about the industry average, and we continue to implement measures to increase that usage. Because of the variety of occupations that we have here at the region, we have additional programs such as debrief sessions for staff working in health and human services who may be dealing with vulnerable populations, and targeted workplace violence prevention protocols for staff working in our long-term care centers. Psychological health and safety is incorporated into our existing health and safety program. We've spent a lot of time updating our disability management tools, templates, and processes to make sure that both physical and psychological needs of employees are considered in return to work and accommodation. In 2017, we also included our summer students, and we provided them with a brief orientation to psychological health and safety in the workplace. Psychological health and safety is a key component of and a module of our health and safety for leader training program, and we've had about 19% of our leaders go through that program, and we have additional sessions scheduled in 2018. We work with leaders, our union partners, and joint health and safety committees to anticipate, identify, evaluate, and control the risks for workplace violence. Violence risk assessments are reviewed and updated annually within each of our long-term care centers to help mitigate the increased risk of violence toward healthcare employees. We've developed individual safety care plans for staff at risk for domestic violence. Many of our employees work with the public, and perhaps this is a sign of the times we are seeing some new challenges there. So we're working on strategies to prevent and protect staff from verbal and cyberbullying or harassment by members of the public. As leaders directly influence the health and well-being of their employees, the CSA standard was a critical input into the design of our leadership competencies. We use this set of behaviors to recruit, develop, and assess leaders at all levels of the organization. The relationship between leader and employee is a key to psychological health and safety, and so we've invested in leadership development that aligns with our leadership competency framework. In our 2016 employee survey, we saw employee ratings on confidence in leadership that were above the public sector norm, and our ratings related to the provision of clear and promising direction were at the public sector norm. Both of these are important to the workplace factor, clear leadership and expectations that's identified in the CSA standard. Since January the 1st, 2018, we have a new performance management program for our non-union employees to ensure that the organization is positioned well to deliver on the priorities of Regional Council. We are very excited about this program, and we use the CSA standard in the development of it. The performance management program provides employees with clear job expectations and regular feedback from their leader. By taking a supportive approach to performance management, even when there is no illness present, it's more likely that changes to an employee's health may be detected and treated earlier. There's work to be done, and we've incorporated that into our performance goals and work plans. Drawing on our experience from paramedic services, we are expanding the peer support program to departments and divisions where staff are at an increased risk for mental health conditions due to the nature of their work. We'll work with leaders and unions and our joint health and safety committees to ensure that we have good success there. We're continuing to assess risk for workplace violence and harassment. We'll implement appropriate mitigation strategies to protect employee personal safety and well-being. We're going to be evaluating options to update our corporate mental health training program. Our current offering has been in place for a number of years, and it does need some refreshing. We'll make sure that we complement the R2MR training that the folks in paramedic services have implemented and spoke so highly of. We'll be doing work, we'll continue to do work with our first aid attendants, giving them some mental health training to put in their toolkit so that they'll be able to assist employees more effectively. To allow us to look at trends that inform decision-making, we're implementing an enhanced health and safety incident tracking and case management tracking system to help us in assessing and reporting on how we're doing with our psychological health and safety program. We're going to continue to identify relevant performance targets and outcomes. And lastly, we're going to continue to look for opportunities to integrate psychological health and safety best practice into regional business practices. That concludes our presentation, and thank you for the opportunity to update you on our psychological health and safety program that is focused on prevention, intervention, and support for employees during recovery and return to work. We'd be happy to take your questions.
Thank you very much to all three of you, Peter, Dave, and Mary, for that presentation. Very thorough update. It has made very clear collective and collaborative approach is essential when it comes to addressing mental health. I can't believe one in five people are suffering from mental illness. And as you were saying, Peter, it's not as easy to diagnose as physical health issues or organic health issues. And I just want to thank you in terms of all the work that's gone into looking at different options for treatment and also for increased awareness and access to information. I did bring a copy of the pocket guide that you said, and I have a number of organizations in Ward 3. They've asked for this, so I know you say, oh, it's a hard copy, and a lot right now people are turning to online information, but these are flying off the shelves, which I think is a testament to the fact that when you look in here, a testament to the fact that everybody's willing to work together on a collective approach to address this. So we do have a list, and I'll go to the list now. Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I don't have many questions. I do have some comments. Thank you for the start of this. This is a very good, I think it's a really good start. It is, I believe, in the beginning. We talk about, and we've heard it, that 1 in 5 number, and I think it's closer to actually 4 and 5, and I think it's actually for our emergency staff, it's probably 5 out of 5, because of the fact that they see things that on a daily basis that we'll probably never see in our life, and they have to live with that. I have a lot of friends that are either part of the fire department, police department, or paramedics, and some of the stories that I hear are just, they're mind-boggling. They're just, I couldn't in this day and age actually put myself through, and I hope I never have to, see any of the things that they see with or deal with. And so my hat goes off to them and all of you for all of the work that you guys do. I think that, for a long time and still today, PTSD and psychological health has gone misdiagnosed, mistreated, or untreated for years, and it'll continue to do so until the mindset of everybody is changed. It's always been, and it's still today, I believe, in a lot of minds frowned upon that you show any type of weakness and that's for men and women, and it's unfortunate. because that alone, I think, is the probably leading cause in all of these issues going untreated. I was wondering, I actually do have some questions. Is there any provincial funding that we've been able to capitalize on this program, or have we been able to be involved with the Ontario telemedication with their mental health? Sorry, I don't like using mental health, psychological health, or the program Bounce Back?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Palashi. So in answer to your question, it's quite timely because just recently we were asked by the Ministry of Health. It used to be the Emergency Health Services branch, and now they've got multiple branches, so I can't remember the branch. But they asked for our financial submissions on PTSD claims, WSIB costs. They're looking at everything and looking at if there's a possibility to possibly fund some of those costs we're experiencing. They use the term possible. And it may take quite some time to see if we're going to see some recovery throughout the ministry lens. But that's promising, that at least they're looking at that, they're looking at the trends. And this isn't from the Ministry of Labor side, this is the people who fund us at the 50/50 cost. So recovery. So as far as those other programs, we haven't tapped into those, but they're all good pieces of information which will probably come forward over time as we work through the framework.
Okay, that's good. And talking about the framework and particularly I know there's a standard to what we try to identify, what we try to help. Is that a provincial standard, or do we go above and beyond and say, it's if everything has been identified in some sort of way, do we try and treat or diagnose, help everything?
So the CSA standard.
In terms of the psychological health.
Yeah, the CSA standard is a voluntary standard, so it's not a mandatory standard that every municipality has to adopt. We have embraced it. But when you look at these frameworks, these guidelines from CSA, it's sort of the minimal pieces. And if there's other elements that we can build upon the 16 criteria that are within the framework, we'll absolutely explore that and see how it can either partner with some of those guides, or it may be standing on its own. Dave may have, or Mary may have some input onto that as well.
If not, that's okay. My last, I guess, and final question in relation to that, if something, if one of our paramedics came and with whatever type of issue, and we really didn't have a policy in place, or it was identified in something like this, how would we try and help and treat that paramedic?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So typically if the paramedic identifies themselves as having an issue, the frontline supervisors would, if it's work-related or PTSDs being queried, they would fill out the appropriate WSIB paperwork, and they'd refer to probably the EFAP provider. If there's any immediate risk of self-harm, then they would call an ambulance and they would go to the hospital, or the supervisor would take them to the hospital. And that's happened. That is a real-life situation that happens on shift, off shift.
Sure it has.
It's something that is a thing. And the supervisors, for the most part, have been very good at dealing with it. And then what happens from there, it all depends on what that person's clinical course ends up being. Some of the policies around enhanced supports are not clear to all levels of the organization, certainly not to the front line, and I would posit not to the frontline supervisors. So there are supports available from the region that you need to go to certain people in order to activate or even be knowledgeable of. And Human Resources has been a great partner in that. And there's been some messaging, certainly on my part and on Peter's part, to get the frontline supervisors to the human resource personnel to get those supports activated if the need arises.
Glad for that, and that's what I was talking about with changing the mindset and trying to educate everybody that not just the supervisors, but everybody, those peers, the colleagues, and everyone to understand and to know. And that 4-hour course, I hope soon turns into, something a little bit more extensive and mandatory for all of our staff.
Yeah, the 4-hour R2MR course is really beneficial. It deals a lot with, you spoke earlier about, the things paramedics see and how they deal with it. And it works very hard not to pathologize that, not to make it an illness. These are normal physiologic responses to stress, right? If I take a 1-cup measuring cup, I can put 1 cup of water in it, but if I put 2 cups, it's going to spill over. The human mind is a lot like that. You can take so much stress, no matter what the size of the vessel, eventually you'll get to too much.
Yep.
And the 4-hour course makes you aware of behaviors that are suggestive that they use colors. So you're moving into the yellow, you're moving into the red and the orange, or the red, and strategies about what sort of help you need where, right? So if you've gone from green to yellow because you've had a minor insult, well, maybe you just need some time and you'll go back to green. But if you're hanging out in yellow, well, maybe you need to speak to a peer supporter. Maybe that's the time to trigger peer support. Whereas if you're orange or red, maybe you need to go to the emergency department, or maybe you need to reach out to a mental health professional. And it sort of orients you to a different way of thinking. You don't need a disorder per se to go and get some help. Here's some symptoms you might feel, and if you do, these might be some good steps to be on the lookout for. So I think the 4-hour course is absolutely essential, and we've seen people describe their condition as that to supervisors and as that to each other, and it is a very quick and effective shorthand for very quickly identifying where you are. So I think the R2MR course has been hugely beneficial to my members.
No, and that's good, and I hope this continues to grow, and the days behind us going to the bar to drink or to empty that cup are long behind us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Paleshi. Councillor Sado.
Thank you. I think in a way, I applaud you all for the work that is being done. It's really too bad that we have to sit here and say, this is wonderful that we're doing this, because it's something that we should be doing. It's just a normal, every day, we need to take care of our employees and to recognize, in particular, those who are in jobs that have perhaps a greater psychological impact on their mental health than others. And Mary, I really was pleased that you referred to the employees in social services and health, because the job that they do must take a great toll at times on them, and especially I think when they're dealing with people who are in very vulnerable situations, and many of which, as we've learned through the Health Integration Committee, many of which relate to mental health concerns. And we've all seen how difficult it is to navigate the mental health supports in the province of Ontario, that huge big chart that we shared with members of council that was absolutely mind-boggling as to how anyone would be able to get help. We've had people come here, residents come here and to our committee and be absolutely in tears, and have one of our staff take them out of the room and help them. And when you see that daily, it has to have an impact. It just has to. So it's the right thing that we're doing, and I don't think we can ever do enough to support those staff that need it. And I really hope I think the supports, some of the supports have been there. We have improved those supports, but I think what is most important is that we're improving getting the information out to the employees and really encouraging them to come forward and to make use of what we've been providing. I was particularly pleased in one of the first slides. Dave, you have been an advocate for this for several terms of council. You've been coming to our previous Emergency Services Committee representing the paramedic employees. And this has been an issue that you have kept at the forefront for many, many years, even, I would say, over the last 2 or 3 terms of council with our previous committee and now with the Health Integration Committee. And I really applaud you for that, because we need it to be kept in front of us. We all get busy with our everyday lives. You are living it, and your fellow employees are living it. I was really pleased that we aren't allowed to interfere in arbitration and everything, but you'll recall, I guess it was last year, when several of us on council, and the other person is going to be speaking after me, so, we flagged the fact that the amount of money that was being provided for the psychological assistance, I think it was 400, it was on one of your slides, that it just couldn't be enough. We knew it wasn't enough, and we urged staff to increase that. I was so pleased to see that today. And, that's just one thing that, well, yeah, council did interfere a little bit, but I think it was the right thing to do, and you probably would have ended up there anyway. But I hope it showed that that we do have the well-being of our employees at heart. And, I think particularly I mentioned social services and health and those that work with the vulnerable part of our population. But, wow, we just can't imagine what our emergency services staff, paramedics, and including our police and our fire, what they go through. And the new training that has been put in place is certainly something that we have supported and we have helped, but as you say, it's prevention, and I'm trying to remember exactly the order you gave, but it was prevention, awareness, and treatment, I guess. Those weren't the words you used, that's what I'm using, but it is a multifaceted approach. And I'm really pleased to see that that you're all still working together and bringing these initiatives forward. And I know that I think I could speak for all of my colleagues that this is something that we support fully, and we'd like to see even enhanced beyond what you have done. But it's an excellent report that you've brought to us today, and I really hope that all of the employees are aware of the position that council has on this, that, we're separated in some way from you, but we are here with that support, and we will always, always support mental health. We continue to do it through the Health Integration Committee. We continue to lobby the province on all of those areas, and you know that you can bring any of your requests to that committee, and they will come through to council in the form of recommendations. So thank you and well done.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Sato. Councillor Parrish?
Yes, I'm sorry Joanna Downey's not here today because she's a big champion of paramedic services and would have enjoyed listening to your presentation. I'm very impressed that we've got the deadly threesome here. And you're all working together well. David, I'm very pleased that you have dedicated so much of your time to this. I have a question. If a paramedic exceeds or gets beyond the 1,000 that's been negotiated in, what's their next step? Their doctors refer them to the OHIP system or what?
There is no OHIP system. Essentially, the coverage for mental health care is broken in the province of Ontario. It is only hospital-based services that are covered. Certainly, some of our members have been through hospital-based programs, but that's because their clinical situation called for them to be at a hospital-based inpatient or outpatient program. Beyond the 1,000, I would imagine a union rep bearing a striking resemblance to myself would go hat in hand to Human Resources and try and come up with accommodations to help that person. I am happy to report that the 2 times that it's happened, those requests have been facilitated. There are certainly mechanisms there to do that. There's also the EFAP and the ways that people can access EFAP. The reality that we're seeing on the ground is the people who need that level of support tend to be WSIB claims. They tend to have some form of PTSD diagnosis. And again, the board doesn't really hesitate to approve the claims for care. So the rough pathway that we see is someone accesses either their family doctor or a mental health care professional under benefits, gets a diagnosis, then goes and fills the form. Subsequent visits are covered by WSIB. I guess the thing to consider when costing mental health benefits especially is the amount of cost avoidance that providing those benefits leads to. We have an agreement with our insurer to provide those benefits at a cost plus arrangement. My understanding is it's nowhere near the cost plus of WSIB, which is 36% over what we pay. So every dollar we spend preventing somebody from getting a WSIB claim is money that we've saved the taxpayer. So there really is good value for money in investing in those benefits.
Well, I compliment all three of you. I think we should be an example to other jurisdictions when you can get the chief and director and the manager and the union president sitting here together cooperating and really making things better for, I think, probably the most taxed people in our system. People with varying degrees of closeness to Toby all of us experienced shock last week. I can't understand how you go through it day after day after day and what you have to endure. And if we didn't have you, I don't know how we'd survive. So I just want to compliment you. I think this has been an excellent presentation, but I think the process over the last couple of years has been very productive, and everybody involved, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Parrish. Councillor Moore.
Well, thank you, and I too want to lend my voice of appreciation for all you do, and working together certainly makes a difference. Dave, your comment that mental health support is broken in this province is a dramatic understatement. And all you need to do is look at the flow chart that one of our fine staff members put together to try and navigate mental health services and programs in this province. It really is, it explains why there are so many folks falling through the cracks. My question, and I just want to follow up a little bit on Councillor Parrish's comments, and this is probably directed more, Mary, I think you closed off your presentation by talking about the need to review, the relevance of the benefit plan across the board. And I think that, and I've raised this at the City of Brampton with our folks in benefits as well. And I'm not familiar with the benefit plan that we have here, but usually you have, $500 for orthotics and $500 for physiotherapy and $500 for periodontal work or whatever. It's all broken down that way. And it seems to me that if you need one of those services, then you need to have more of it covered. That there should be a total, I'm going to pick a number out of the air. You should have $5,000 worth of paramedical services, and how you spend that should be flexible enough to meet your need as an individual or as a family. So the $1,000 limit is better than the $400 limit. But if it was $500 limit or $5,000 limit, if that was the specific paramedical service that you needed, then you get that person or that family healthier faster. That if I'm making my point. So I don't know how flexible we are with the plan, but don't give me a bunch of services that I don't need. It's great to have it there, but if I don't need a prosthetic, but I do need more mental health support or physiotherapy support because of an accident or an injury, it should be there for me. And if the cost of that, one visit is $80 and you're covering me for $45 of it, then I'm not getting better faster.
So what you, through the chair, what you describe is what we call flexible benefit plan, where there's a pot of money basically that the employee designates for whatever services they require. We don't have that here at the Region of Peel. However, we do have a paramedic umbrella. So for certain services provided by specialists, including psychologists and speech therapists and chiropodists and naturopath and other things, employees do have the ability to designate those dollars towards the services that they require. It is not $5,000, though.
Listen, I pull it, I don't know. Have we done the cost analysis of what it would be if we went to a flexible benefit plan? Because I think that you also have to factor in the cost to the corporation when people are not returning to work as quickly. There is a cost to that. So, I think immediately you sort of tend to think, well, this could cost a whole lot more. But we're paying the price one way or the other. I would rather have it relevant than to have it potentially cheaper.
We can definitely look into that. Just a reminder, though, that approximately 50% of our employees are covered by collective agreements, and benefits is an item that's collectively bargained.
I
And we can-
understand that.
But definitely, we can
I
look
understand
at
that.
doing some research.
I'm suggesting that it's a conversation that I believe is worth having. That with the right data, and surely the goodness, there must be large corporations out there that can use this that we can mine information that they have and data that they have to show that it's more beneficial. But, even in the absence of having that data, it just, to me, common sense says that is a better approach, to make it customized for each individual or family. So, something else you can add to the, for discussions, Dave, when you go back into negotiations again. But I think it's a conversation worth having and understanding better.
Through you, Chair. My discussion's obviously limited to collective bargaining for my members, but I think one area that we need to look at as a corporation is definitely the psychological care for the paramedic supervisors. I think we may have an opportunity to enhance their benefits because no one should take a promotion and get less psychological care, especially after a lifetime of being a paramedic. They may very much need those services, so it might be an area to take a look at.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Moore. Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you, through the chair, and well done, Dave. You just scored a point there for next negotiations. But certainly, regarding the financial, and it was good that Carolyn, that Councillor Parrish raised it as well, because what I do find is that you don't want to be in a situation where someone's not getting the care because financially it's not there. But also, and as you know, mental health, there's not a magic solution. It's not, you broke your leg, you fix your leg, it's healed, and you're back to work. And a lot of it is ongoing, and it comes back, and so it's really dealing with it, and everyone deals with it differently. But it's not why I want to talk. It was actually last year what struck me when I got to visit the headquarters, and I got to meet, I guess, those in training, some of those young folks in training. And the thing that hit me was, what was their reaction going to be when they first hit that, one traumatic moment in their first big, and can you just speak to a little bit about the sort of some of the work that goes into to prepare them for that experience? I know as a first responder, it's very difficult. It's, on the job, and as much as you train them up front, and then after also the type of education and information that you share with them to let them know that, there are these supports, and it's not about sucking it up. It's not about, this is something that we're here to assist you and so on.
Yeah, paramedic services has seen and paramedic education has seen a seismic culture shift in the past 15 years, where it was, you do the work, you do the calls, and shut up, suck it up, get back out there, to recognize the practitioner as a person. And in terms of the new people, adrenaline is a heck of a drug. And when you're new, everything is a very new experience, and you're navigating that. We don't see as many occupational stress injuries amongst the very new. It is definitely something that with exposure, your resilience becomes challenged. We've seen a reordering of some of the educational programs to include resiliency training. and sort of mindfulness activities and things as part of training. And that is still untested because those people are so new that we don't know what the experience with those people is going to be. I think having an open process and being very clear from the get-go what the processes are in place if you need help is helpful. There is still a challenge in that most of the people we hire new are hired on contracts or part-time, so they don't have benefits. So they are entirely reliant on the money we pay in lieu of benefits if they want to access psychological care, WSIB claims, if that's appropriate, or the Employee Family Assistance Program. And they never, in our collective agreement, have access to income continuance. So how many of the new people are working HURT for the first 3 years of their career while they achieve full-time status? Now, we do have a robust accommodation program in Peel to try and facilitate rapid and safe return to work. And there is some work going on in that program right now that I hope will be able to report back successes in the near to distant future.
Through the chair, so that's a little bit concerning when you, and it's interesting that you pointed out about, especially I guess the new hires, a lot of them are on contract or, part-time, and it is concerning that they may not have that access to that support when they're, dealing with the same trauma that a lot of the other folks would be. That's something I guess also you'd be considering and keep looking at and see what type of, and there's no provision that we would provide or opportunity for some form of benefits based on some, I guess their only option would be the WSIB claim or some along those lines?
For income continuance, yeah, WSIB would be the only option at this point. Our collective agreement doesn't include income continuance for part-time employees. We have it for employees on job sharing, but those are very senior employees typically. So the people who are coming to us straight from school or from other places get hired part-time, and they do not have any form of income continuance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Medeiros. Councillor Inika.
Thank you. Well, I'm very grateful for the presentation. And Dave, you made me pause for thought. I made a note of the words you said. With exposure to the job, your resilience becomes challenged. Sing it, brother. I say that from a unique perspective, and I understand exactly what you mean. But I wanted to speak very last because I'm happy to move receipt of the. I'm glad we had all these conversations. I wanted to move on to another piece. I want to take advantage, Mary, of your being here. It's something right up at the city of Mississauga as well. And what a great piece, and I'm so glad this was largely the biggest standalone item here today on our agenda. What I'm going to be asking you, Mary, as I have at the City of Mississauga, is in keeping with this idea of psychological well health, and today we were dealing with the mental well-being, I'm hoping you can come back at another regional council meeting, as I've asked at the city, and let's talk about people's mental health and well-being as it relates to sexual harassment in the workplace. And as I said at the city, and I learned there, Nanda, we'd love to. We have all of these programs, practices in place, and I know we do, and I know we do here, but I'd like to have the exact same focus on an upcoming meeting so that it's got the demonstration effect for our staff that we're saying we're listening to, here are all the doors that we open for you to make us aware of your concerns, here are all the supports. This exact presentation, marvelous as it was, I would love it if we could put you on an upcoming agenda and give that topic and display that we're on side with our staff and the folks that are making all the courageous comments about Me Too and Silent No More. I just think this was beautifully done, and I think that's another file we should give the same attention to, knowing that I think we do a very good job of it, but I want to remind our staff we've got their backs on that file as well, and maybe we'll learn something as well. So if I could give that as direction for an upcoming meeting as well, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yanika, and thank you to the three of you for an excellent presentation. I think there's been very good discussion today, and as Councillor Yanika said, definitely warranted spotlight and the amount of time that that we took to discuss it, because there's a lot of time that you have put into this and also moving forward into the future. So thank you very much. This item is for receipt, so we need a show of hands. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 11.2. 7.7. This is amendments to the Region Appeal Procedural Bylaw. And there is a recommendation that the proposed revisions to the Region Appeal Procedural Bylaw, as amended, attached as Appendix 1 to the report of the Commissioner of Corporate Services titled Amendments to the Region Appeal Procedural Bylaw, be approved. And then there is a further, we do have Councillor Sato on the board.
Thank you. I wonder if staff could put up the three motions. As Vice Chair of the committee and the Chair, Councillor Shaughnessy, and I have discussed deferring one section of the bylaw, and that is the issue actually that Councillor Parrish mentioned at the beginning of the agenda today with regard to the alternate members. Mississauga is looking at an interpretation, and it has nothing to do with what Brampton and Caledon have the authority to do, so it's not impacting you at all. But we are looking at an interpretation from the ministry as it applies to the city of Mississauga, particularly in the position that we are in today with the sad passing of Councillor Tovey. We did have this on the agenda for our February Governance Committee meeting, and we had a brief discussion at Council yesterday, but we have not had an opportunity to receive that information from the province. And even though I've discussed it with the clerk, and even though the region does not have to approve appointments, we would like to ask that we just hold that one section until we get the information from the ministry and then bring it to council. It, as you heard this morning, it doesn't prevent Brampton and Caledon from appointing their alternates. It is just giving us the interpretation so that when we pass it and put it into the procedural bylaw, it will be the most up-to-date information that we have. So there are actually three motions that, the first one is that section that is in front of you here be voted on separately. We are moving that the procedural bylaw, apart from that one section, be adopted today. And maybe you could put up I think it says that one section be deferred to a future meeting of Regional Council. So we are asking our colleagues for your support for us to do that and give us the opportunity to get that information from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. And as I said, it doesn't impact your rights under the new Municipal Act. It's just cleaning it up within the Region Appeal Procedural Bylaw, and the clerk has agreed that this is the best way to deal with that.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Sato. At the right time, are you finished speaking? Just Catherine would like to speak to this.
Yeah, I'm finished. We have the three motions that need to be taken in order according to the clerk.
Yes.
So maybe she can explain further.
Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, just from a procedural perspective, so the first vote will be to separate the issue of the alternate member, and then there'll be a second vote, so that the first one is vote separately. The second one is the deferral of the alternate member section, which is an appendix and one section in the bylaw itself. And then the third vote would be on the adoption of the bylaw without those two pieces that have been deferred. And all recorded votes.
Yes, all recorded votes, and thank you very much for that. And we do have Councillor Gibson on the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure I understand why we need to defer here. Maybe the clerk can answer that. I don't know how it impacts on Mississauga. So, sorry, Councillor Sato, but I'm not sure I'm getting a good explanation why we need to defer this off if it doesn't impact Mississauga. How does it impact Mississauga? I don't get it. Sorry.
We'll go to Councillor Sato.
There you go.
Because Mississauga is in a unique position and the Region Appeal is in a unique position, I think we're the only region where two of the three municipalities are, or a number of the municipalities are able to appoint an alternate, and the third municipality, under the wording, it is not clear whether we also have that authority. So before we put it into the regional bylaw, we want that to be clarified by the minister. And that's simply it. The intent of the legislation, as we have been told, is mainly for those smaller municipalities or those regions where they have municipalities that might have one member sitting on the regional council. So in order that they not, so that they maintain their representation, that they would have that. But the way that it is working within the region of Peel, it gives a privilege to two members of the region and not to the other, where in all other municipalities, every region, I think almost every municipality has that same right. So we want that definition to come from the ministry. We want an affirmation of what we think we should be able to do. And putting it into the regional bylaw, procedural bylaw, if we get the definition, then it has to be changed, then we have to go in and amend the bylaw. So it's simpler this way to just hold it and then bring it into the bylaw once we have that definition. We're just asking you for some time, Councillor, and, you know, I think with, it's not holding anything up. It's not preventing your municipality or Caledon from doing what you need to do. But we would ask, as your colleagues on council, for you to give us that consideration and grant us that time to get an answer from the ministry before we adopt something here that we might want to come back and change. It's a simple deferral, Councillor Gibson, and I would hope that you would grant us that consideration.
I guess then my thought on this would be, I thought it was clear. I thought staff had made it clear. Certainly our Brampton staff had made it clear who could and who couldn't on their discussions with the ministry. So I don't think we need, my opinion is we don't think we need them to come back to tell us what it is. We're told by our legal and our clerk last meeting what it meant. And I think we just got told this morning what it meant. That two municipalities can, one can't. That's what, I'm not sure deferring it does anything. Okay, thank you. I don't think I'm going to support it.
Okay. Councillor Sato, are you back on the board? No. Oh. Okay. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. And I certainly understand the request from Mississauga, and given, you know, the events of the past week, I understand even more so why this may be a concern. My concern is that we would then have, by referring this, we would have a procedural bylaw that has one very key piece of interpretation, or rather of definition, that's missing. As an alternative, Councillor Sato, would you consider, so that the procedural bylaw remains intact and has a definition, that 1.2.17 be approved in principle pending an interpretation from the minister? And that way, it keeps the procedural bylaw intact. It has a definition of a member, but doesn't, but leaves the door open for an interpretation coming from the minister that may or may not change that definition. So I put that out there as an alternative, because it concerns me that we would have procedural bylaw with no definition of a member in it, if we refer the whole thing off, unless anyways. I just think that might be it's saying, if this is what it is, this is what it is, but if there's a different interpretation that comes from the minister, we're reserving the right to change it.
Okay. Well, so that's, do you have anything
Well,
further?
it's kind of it's not, I don't know whether it's a friendly amendment or whether it's it's not a friendly amendment. It's a different approach to, I think, achieving the same courtesy to the city of Mississauga.
Okay, we still have two other people on the board, so with that out there, I'll go to the next councillor on the board, Councillor Innes.
Thank you. I think we're all coming at it from different angles, and I'd be supportive of removing it and bringing it back to have a more fulsome discussion, I think it would be interesting to know whether or not, in the case of an absent member from Mississauga, whether or not the waiting voting could be a possibility to ensure that the balance of representation is withheld. And so I don't think that that's actually clear in the minister's. And I think that when the government made these changes, they were looking to help more so the rural municipalities as opposed to the urban centers, and we're caught in the middle. So I think that as a council, we should be, collaboratively working back and asking the minister directly to, whether it's to amend that or to make a comment, but I think that that has to be taken into consideration. So I support it, removing it for that sense, to look at the whole picture, and to look at the possibility of doing the weighted voting for the city of Mississauga, and then bringing it back at that point in time.
Thank you very much, Councillor Innes. Councillor Sato?
Thank you, Councillor Innes, and that is our intent. That is what we have asked the minister, and that is why we are waiting for a reply. And the loss of Councillor Tovey has really, that was not the initial reason, but it has made the position more amplified. And Councillor, I'm sorry, I can't accept your proposed amendment. It's contrary to what we're asking for. And if you don't support us giving us that time, the clerk has indicated to me, and perhaps I will ask her, that it's not going to impact the Region of Peel procedural bylaw to a degree that it is going to stop anything from happening here at the region. It's deferring one little part of it, and our committee has worked really hard on bringing these changes to the procedural bylaw under the leadership of Councillor Shaughnessy as the chair. And we want this to go through. We want the bylaw to go through. We're just asking for a little bit of time, and I would appreciate if you would give us that.
Thank you, Councillor Sato. Councillor Sprobieri?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess if this motion is supported, we should put a timeline as to how much time we're willing to wait. I know in the province, they seem to have bigger issues in their hands, and sometimes they just don't even acknowledge our requests. So can we put a timeline in that? Because certainly we need to move on, and if they're not willing, if they don't respond, then we should move on and carry on with what staff is recommending here. So.
Councillor Sprobieri, are you suggesting a specific timeline or just that one be added?
Well, I would say that, if this is a serious matter and the province believes that it has to be addressed, they will respond fairly quickly. And so I'd be willing to say within, perhaps give them till next month and respond. Otherwise, just a question to the staff. If we don't move forward with the adoption of the bylaw, what are we able to have our representative from Brampton, replacement, come attend, or is that put into limbo?
It doesn't.
So what is? Yeah.
Catherine, could you clarify, and Councillor Sato, I believe, explained it at the start when, with regards to procedurally putting the three resolutions forward, but could you clarify again as to just this process and taking this one section out, just in terms of the impacts that it won't have on what the other two municipalities have in terms of their representation that they've decided at the local level?
The
procedure bylaw, if it's passed, will incorporate all of the other changes that we've talked about at the committee and have been recommended for change here, with the exception of the alternate member. So that would include things like the new grounds for going in camera, and a variety of other procedural changes within the bylaw. The alternate member itself, if it's separated, what the bylaw here was providing was the framework or the rules around how that person will be treated as a regional council member during the course of the meeting. Without that, we don't have the framework for the councillor to be actually sitting here. I did meet with Councillor Bowman before we sat down and said, this is what the bylaw would have said. He agreed to the terms, but we don't really have at the regional table the ability to say, no, you can't come. All we can say is what we will do when you're here. So I think what Councillor Sato, I don't mean to put words, but I think what Councillor Sato is saying is that what's not affected is the ability of Brampton's alternate member to be at the table, be counted for quorum and vote as provided in the legislation, but we haven't had the specific arrangements around they are not a regional council member for any other purpose other than to be at the regional council table. So not at committees, only at regional council. So those things aren't finalized and won't be finalized if you defer the issue, but the fact that they're here,
And they get a vote.
yes, and Councillor Bowman has been voting throughout the day's procedure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. And Councillor Sprovieri, did you have any further questions?
No, I'm fine with that.
So with regards to your...
No, there's
time-
no need for timing. Just as long as it doesn't affect our bringing somebody to replace here, it's fine.
Thank you very much. Mayor Crombie?
I'm just going to call the vote in that case, because I was going to respond to Councillor Sprovieri, but since he doesn't want a timeline, I won't.
Okay, thank you, and seeing no one further on the board. So as Catherine and Councillor Sato have explained, procedurally, there will be 3 resolutions, and the first one is on the board right now, and these are all recorded vote. So on the first resolution, moved by Councillor Sato, seconded by Councillor Shaughnessy, you can vote now. Yes. Yes, this is the vote to vote separately. And it passes. Okay. Thank you very much. And the second resolution, this is consideration of alternate member provisions outlined, be deferred to a future meeting. Moved by Councillor Sato, seconded by Councillor Shaughnessy, and this is also a recorded vote, and you can vote now. And this passes as well. Thank you very much. Now we have a third resolution, and this is that the proposed revisions to the Region Appeal procedural bylaw, with the exception of the reference to alternate members, be approved. Moved by Councillor Sato, seconded by Councillor Shaughnessy. Okay. I was reading what was on the board. Thank you for clarification. Moved by Councillor Shaughnessy, seconded by Councillor Sato, and recorded vote, and you can vote now. And this also passes. Okay, thank you very much. Not another resolution, is it? We just did that one, correct? Thank you. And under items of correspondence, we did have 12.1 that was already brought forward. So back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. This brings us to bylaws. Have a motion moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Palashi, that the bylaw listed on Regional Council agenda being bylaw 7-2018 be given the required number of readings, taken as read, signed by the regional chair and the regional clerk, and the corporate seal be affixed thereto. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. We do have 2 in-camera matters. I don't know if council wishes to move in camera or not on these. I don't. Okay, do I take them separate, or can you take them? Okay, the first one moved by Mayor Crombie, seconded by Councillor Fonseca. It's the appointment of the Associate Medical Officer of Health, and it's a recorded vote, please.
Councillor Carlson, can you vote?
Councillor Carlson.
You need to vote. Yep.
And that passes. The second motion is with respect to labor relations, and that would be moved by Councillor Parrish, seconded by Councillor Mahoney. All those, or recorded vote on that too as well. That passes as well. I have a motion moved by Councillor Ennis, seconded by Councillor McFadden, that bylaw 8-2018 to confirm the proceedings of the Regional Council at its meeting held on January 25th, 2018, and to authorize the execution of documents in accordance with the Region Appeal bylaws relating thereto, be given the required number of readings, taken as read, signed by the Regional Chair and the Regional Clerk, and the corporate seal be affixed thereto. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. And then a motion moved by Councillor Shaughnessy, seconded by Councillor Bowman, that the January 25th, 2018 Regional Council meeting be adjourned. All in favor? Just wanted to make sure you recorded that you were here for the full meeting, right?